El Paso and Dayton. That's where we started with this whole thing. Do you have anything to say?
I have lots to say, but it's pointless. Like,
Okay. Really?
Do
That's
some
it?
shit. Change the laws.
That's the name of this.
Do some shit.
Do some shit.
Change the laws. Get these guns away. Hello, impeach Trump. Shut his ass up.
Yeah, no, but I don't think that is going to fix the problems that are there. I mean, the problem has been a part of our lives long before Trump became president.
Absolutely.
So
they need to change the laws. They need to get the guns off the street. They need to stop all these loopholes and all this other bullshit.
But is that? I don't know if.
I'm not saying.
I don't know if that's where the problem is. Why is it? I mean, is the problem availability of firearms, or is the problem something is wrong in the culture that is allowing for people to think that they can solve their problems by killing other people?
Yes, both.
Because it seems like, because honestly, like I've heard in the last week or so, in other parts of the world, they are still doing the killings. They're just doing them in different ways.
Right, they're doing
and
the
we
knives
saw
or
that.
bombs
We saw a guy get beheaded.
Yeah, because
over
one yuan.
Yeah, because he thought he was
16 cents.
overcharged in China by one RMB. So
16 cents.
I mean, I think therein lies the real.
Yeah.
Like when you get down to it, it's not about a gun, because you could walk into a place with a machete and start killing people
Which they
and
did
injuring
in
people.
the train station in China?
Yeah, no, I'm just saying in America you could do that.
Oh,
And you could
absolutely.
walk in with a box cutter. You could walk, they take all that stuff away from you when you get on a plane. Why? Because there is that potential. But why is it that we have people that think that killing other people helps them in some way? And maybe this is not a problem of, maybe the frequency that we're seeing is a symptom of a larger issue inside of Western culture, inside of the United States. Guns are just the vehicle that everybody's choosing because they're
easy.
there.
They're accessible.
But they're buying them legally.
I know.
But even with loopholes, they can still buy them legally. I mean, I bought what, 3? And then was given 1? Or bought 2 and was given 1?
Wait,
no,
we had
3. Shotgun, carbine, 9mm, and then was given a shotgun.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we only had 4?
So when you think about that, but then you had this gigantic knife behind you. And think about it. Think about that.
We had a sword in the living room.
Right, and I had one in my cane. So
That's what I'm talking about.
Come on now. If you're, and then you had all this stuff in the kitchen.
Yeah.
You can always, do the grits thing.
Hot popcorn.
No, man, the grits is better. It's sticky. It
Yeah,
stays.
well, you know the hot kernels, like the oily kernels, they embed themselves into your flesh.
Oh, that's awesome.
Ask Tessa's dad.
What about a little Al Green action? Wow.
Yeah.
If you're prone to do, it doesn't really matter what. A big black frying pan it can do it. You know what I mean? You beat a motherfucker to death with one of them.
Yes,
you can have one of them old school tank phones and do the same thing. So I don't know. I think everybody's focusing on the gun.
Well,
and this bullshit about they're mentally ill, that's bullshit. That's
bullshit.
all 100% bullshit.
They're angry white men.
Because they're okay, but how do you go from I'm angry to me killing 5 other people abates my anger? It fixes the problem. It does not fix the problem in any circumstance. Even if you don't want, say, Mexicans coming into the United States, killing 10 of them does not change or fix or help solve any problem.
No.
I don't get that.
With a teacher at the school, so you go and shoot up a whole bunch of first graders?
Yeah, none of these actions. So then you have to ask yourself, why do they think it will? Who told them that this is a thing that is going to get them the results that they're actually looking for? I don't think. I'm looking at it going, this is not necessarily a gun issue. There's lots of people that have guns that don't kill many people. There are lots of, so it's not the gun. It's not like you pick it up and you're like, I can kill a motherfucker.
I'm gonna kill
And let me kill lots of, no, that's just not the thing that happens with gun owners. But what makes, like, you know, Aaron get upset and then all of a sudden grab the gun out of the case that I put it in and then go out and then now he's shooting people? How do you get from here to there?
One of the things that I was, they watch a YouTuber they've watched for 5 years now. They love this guy. And I see his tweets. And he said, stop blaming all of this gun violence on video games. I play video games for a living, and I've never felt need to go shoot somebody up.
Yeah.
And Aaron was saying, I'm so tired of this because it has nothing to do with anything. And I said, it kind of, like, I'm not blaming a video game. I'm not.
Being the number one gamer in the family, that is.
I'm not blaming a video game.
I don't know how many jewels you have bead.
I am not blaming a video game. I'm blaming a mindset. However, playing violent video games from a young age through your teenage years does desensitize you to violence.
Yes, but watching the news could desensitize you.
I agree with you.
Movies could desensitize you to violence.
Yeah, like
watching your dad beat the shit out of your mom
Yep,
could desensitize you. So, okay, continue.
So I said, if anybody wants to say anything about video games, then they have to go to music and movies and everyday life. We all get desensitized.
Just walking outside.
We all get desensitized, but violence in video games, especially for young kids, they tried to curb that with the rating. But the problem is dads.
No.
So the kids didn't have access to it.
I don't think so. That's like saying they tried to curb children from seeing rated R movies. No. I don't think that. Okay, let's call it ineffective.
It is ineffective.
Okay, because honestly, putting a rating on something like, okay, let's use today's world. If I put a rating on a film, if we're only talking about film, I put a rating on film, that means that the child cannot, if it's rated R and they're under 18, they cannot go into the movie theater and buy the ticket.
Right.
That's all that means. Mm-hmm. It does not mean that the child won't be able to see the film. Because I've had lots of kids around the world who have watched the films before I have, and they didn't watch them in the theaters that had the ratings that stopped them from buying the tickets. But that's what you're saying, is that's a parent choice. If you have the video game, Rage 2, I love playing, right? So you have your Rage 2 out there. It is super violent. It's over the top violence. It's fun. Doom is like this. It's very satisfying to punch your hand through a face, and it's ultra violent. Okay. The child cannot go because of the ratings.
Yep.
Cannot go and buy that thing. I think they have a
MA.
Yeah, MA is the rating for game. They can't buy it, but their parent can download it for them at home.
Yeah.
Or, it's accessible across all these other things. Now you can play Doom on your Switch.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's like, it's all right there. That the rating system doesn't stop children from getting to it.
The parents do.
The parents could.
The parents can, but they don't.
But I don't know if that's really the answer. Because you're getting the violence. Like, okay, you're getting the same level of violence in the MCU. And we look at it like, oh, it's fantastic and it's superhero, and what if the child picks up the comic book?
Yeah.
It's still there. Don't act like if you remove one, you're removing violence. It's like, no, because it's across our society is built on this violence.
I remember when I was a kid that a child had been watching the Roadrunner and ended up trying to do the thing that Wile E. Coyote did and hung themselves from their bunk bed.
But that.
And so
now, is
there
this
was
a parent problem?
no. But they didn't see it as violent until a child died.
Yeah, but who's they?
The
who's they?
media.
I know, no, but I mean, come on now. I think they're trying to figure out the reason that it happened.
Yeah.
And then in figuring out, they're like, oh, well, he was watching Wile E. Coyote, so that's just like all the people when Superman came out and they were jumping off their roofs with capes, thinking they could fly. I mean, it's like, what the fuck?
Dumbasses.
See, we call them dumb in our generation.
Yeah.
The child was stupid.
It is stupid.
You see what I mean? Whereas today, it's, oh, the parent should have, or the rating agency should have, or the people that develop the thing should have. It's like, no! You got dumbass kids. Where's your liberal arts education that's going to teach them that you can't do that?
Right. Well, I remember when Aaron and Keegan were young, and we were at my friend's house, and her son is just days younger than Aaron, and he came up and he said, and can Aaron play this game with me? And I said, okay, what's the rating? And he said it was for like 15 or 13 or whatever the rating was. And I said, is he that old? And he said, no. And I said, then he can't play. But Aaron was like, can I watch? And I said, are you that old? And he said, no. And I said, then you should probably not watch it because it's not meant for you. It's not developmentally appropriate, because that's how I talk to my kids. And so they went outside and played. But that was a game that he could play because he played with his dad, even though he was just 3 days younger than Aaron.
But I mean, that's what we're talking about, is a parent decision.
He didn't understand why Aunt Karen was being so irrational. And, I play this all the time. And Aaron just said, my mom said, no, it's not good for my brain. So that means I shouldn't do it.
Okay, now bring that to guns. There are a lot of people that put guns in the hands of 4 and 5 year olds.
There are.
And all different calibers.
Yep.
Usually not too powerful because, of course, the kid is going to kick the shit out of them. But I mean, think about that. You got the small 22s, you got the small rifle, you got the little handguns, you got the airsoft guns that are out there that allow them to practice in a fairly safe way.
Yep.
But they're putting guns.
Pellet gun.
But then you get the BB gun, pellet gun. You shoot your eye out, kid. You get all of this stuff. Are these bad parents? I'm sorry, but if I live in a place, if I live in, say, inner city, I honestly don't need to know much about guns. Living in a city, I really don't think so. There's no real reason a kindergartner needs to know that much about guns.
Listen, I knew about every gun in my house, and I grew up with lots of guns in my house.
Yeah, but you didn't grow up in the city.
And I grew up in the country, and every single time a new gun was brought into the house, we were all assembled in the living room, and my dad showed us how to use it, how to load it, where he would keep the bullets, because the bullets and the guns were never kept in the same place.
Okay, but what was the reason that you needed to know about that? Why in the country do you need to know, and why in the city do you not need to know?
Okay, so in the country, if something was attacking our animals, or
something
like a animal was attacking our animals, or whatever.
Not the crazy young guy running into your field attacking your animals. I mean, what was the reason?
If we had someone that was trying to break into the house, if we called the police, it would take them 15, 20 minutes to get there. We could all be dead by the time they got there.
It takes 15, 20 minutes for the police to come in the city. Why did you need guns and need to know about them at a young age?
Safety. Because we were so
I want you to give the reason, because people don't seem to understand that. Like, why you have a Bernie Sanders who comes from a place that is more rural than it is city, and that he can straddle this line.
We also used them for hunting. That's how we got most of our food. My dad would go hunting. He would take sometimes my mom would go. But they would go hunting, and then that's how we ate for the winter. So we needed the guns for that. But if my dad worked third shift, sometimes my mom didn't get home till late, and we were kids home alone. So we needed to know how to use the guns, not to use the guns unless it was an absolute emergency, and basic safety. Hell, they had gun safety classes at my school. Like, you were 12 years old, you can take gun safety class. Just like in Michigan, we have to take a motor safety class.
I guess my thing is there are specific cultural, regional differences that make guns necessary in the household and the understanding of them important here, and then over there, it's just not a thing that you need to. I mean, if you had it, you couldn't. You're not going to walk around with it. It's just not a thing that's necessary. I think the argument has always been between the two sides. We think it's not. One side says we think it's necessary everywhere, and the other side says in these instances it may be necessary. But in other instances it's totally not. So if I'm walking around Brooklyn, I have no reason to walk around with a gun. But if I'm walking around, say, rural Mississippi, and I'm out looking for, say, food, or I'm trying to keep myself safe in the bayou, or I need it.
Yeah.
Because honestly, there might be an animal, maybe in Montana somewhere, that runs up on me, and I do need to defend myself against this thing. But that's not everybody's experience.
No.
I have never been attacked outside of maybe a dog getting close or running up to me. I've never been attacked by a wild animal living where the places that I've lived. I've never had that. But you could have that in some places, and you may need to defend yourself or be able to defend, like you said, maybe livestock, maybe something else, or you need it. You have to take your own safety into your own hands because of lack of police.
Lack of neighbors. Like my closest neighbor was the house next to us. If I screamed inside my house, my neighbor couldn't hear me.
And you're so old that, the cell phone wasn't a thing that you would be picking up to call them.
No.
Right. So if you're outside, you'd have to run back into the house to get that wired connection to even call somebody.
And I didn't even know the neighbors' phone numbers.
Well, I'm just saying that if you did, you would be calling, but they would be quite a distance away.
Right. But I remember the first time my parents left us and they went on vacation. They went for the first time ever out of state, and my aunt came to stay with us. Now, my aunt is a teeny weeny woman, and one of my parents' friends stopped by, and he was hanging out, and then he started getting sexually aggressive with her and telling us to go away, and she was like, no, and he was getting more and more aggressive, and I just went upstairs and got the gun. And was like...
At what age?
I was 13, 14.
Well, see. I don't know.
He had a double-barreled shotgun pointed at his face. You better leave now, or
I don't know. I'm really, in thinking about this and working through this problem that we have in the United States, I can't point at the gun. Now, if you start to say, we accept gun violence. Gun violence is a thing that's part of our culture.
Yep.
Now you have to limit the types of guns. Now you're talking about limiting the types of guns and saying, no, what is the name of the Tommy gun? No, the Tommy gun is not a thing you can have. No, you cannot have a 50 caliber weapon. No, you start limiting them. Yeah.
Those bullets are huge.
Like a banana. But I mean, it's just, I think they're trying to have multiple arguments all at the same time, like they're all equal.
But they're not addressing the main problem. I can have an arsenal. I can have a garage full of guns. But that doesn't mean in my brain, I'm like, hey, I've got all these guns. Why not go out and test them on people?
Yeah, but that also means that you're not going to play the video game and think that you can go and kill people.
Right. I'm not playing, what is the one where you pull the people out of the car and...
GTA?
That's the one.
Yeah, but that's
Grand Theft Auto?
You can pull people out of cars in lots of games now.
But I'm not going to play that one and think, hey, I could do this in real life. I can just start picking people off from my car.
Yeah, but so then this is where I don't like what we're hearing today about these last two things is Trump is trying to champion this idea that everybody is mentally ill that does this.
No,
it's like, wait a minute, they weren't mentally ill before they did it. So how did they all of a sudden become mentally ill?
Did you read about the woman who was arrested and is facing prison time? She was being physically abused by her husband. She was being stalked by him. She got a personal protection order. And in the court case, they said that the husband had to give up his guns. The husband didn't. So the wife went into the house, got the guns, took them to the police station, and they arrested her for theft. Even though there was a court order saying he can't have guns because he's physically abusing her. She's the one facing prison time now because she took the guns out of the house.
Can you steal from your spouse?
She wasn't living in the house at the time. So
but they're still married.
Yeah.
Can you steal from a spouse?
Yep, apparently you can. According to the police.
So, if I take your phone right now, that could be theft?
Oh, I guess if you're going to give it to somebody else.
No, theft has nothing to do with what you do with it.
I don't know.
Theft has to do with me and
that
the removal of it.
That is actually the first question I had. How do you steal from your spouse? And if she had keys to the damn house, she didn't break in.
Right.
She just went to the house, opened the door, went in, got the things where she knew they were.
I mean,
locked the house back up and went to the police.
Wouldn't it be her? I don't know. Here, I guess this is a good question. Wouldn't it be her responsibility to make sure that those guns were locked up and safe if they stayed in the house? There was no other problem, and they were just in the house. Isn't it her responsibility as being a spouse of a gun owner? Like
no,
they're both.
No.
I mean, whose responsibility is it to make sure?
The person it's registered to. I have no responsibility to your guns.
Seems like you would, though.
I do not.
Just as a parent.
No, that's a whole other situation.
Well, I mean, it would seem like you would be responsible. I mean, I had guns and you had to take responsibility for them to have their locks and stuff when you were doing childcare.
Yeah. I had to make sure that they were all listed and
you had
ammo
responsibility.
cases were locked up, and yeah, I had that because I was registered through the state.
I know, but shouldn't any spouse have that? Having children in the house?
I don't think so. I don't think that's a law.
That's weird.
The only reason
that means a husband or a wife could buy lots of guns, have them hidden in the house, and the spouse never know and never have any responsibility. Yeah. That seems kind of weird. Mm-hmm. Anyway. I don't know. I really don't like this idea of everybody's mentally ill now. These white men that are doing these things are not necessarily mentally ill. Nope. If there is a problem with dealing with mentally ill people and diagnosing them in the United States, that's a different argument and a different topic.
The first thing that Trump did when he got in office, literally the first thing, was make it easier for people with mental disability and mentally ill patients to get guns.
Yeah,
that was the first thing he signed.
Yeah, I get it. I just don't. But I don't think that you can turn around and have somebody that has not been diagnosed, has not had any issue, and then all of a sudden call them mentally ill because it suits your political stance. It's like they're not necessarily mentally ill.
All these people are mentally ill, but he just cut funding for mental health resources.
Well, of course.
Because, you gotta get rid of all of them.
That's like saying that all the schools need to be fixed and then cut funding to
education. They do every year.
Yeah, it's like you need to fix the schools, but we're going to take away more money from you. It's like, okay, but then how are we going to affect the change that you are identifying?
Right.
If we don't, if you're taking away the money and now the resources are not available. Yeah. Quiet the voices. All right, I got nothing else. You got anything else?
No.
All right, we're right on time. Ooh, right on time. All right, so if you want to find the Traveling Farrs, you can find us on the YouTube, the Facebook, the Pinterest, the iTunes, the Spotify, and the Google Podcast at The Traveling Farrs. If you like the Instagram or the Twitter, we are Traveling Farrs. If you like email, travelingfars@gmail.com, and the blog space, thetravelingfars.blueberry.net. No E's in the blueberry. I think we need to do shout outs to the different countries that download our podcast. We should do a shout out. I have to figure out what they are, but they're kind of there's some people out there listening to us from interesting places. The further I am away, the the longer the camera will last.
Jeez Louise.
Right?
No, you're very
Just think
handsome.
about other people.
Bye, people.